Welcome or welcome back to Life as Is. I am your host, Maddie Walsh, and this is a podcast in which we have bite-sized conversations on all things self-improvement. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the show. We are officially on episode 5. That's exciting. I want to dedicate this episode to the concept and idea, but I think most importantly, the practice of slowing down. Something that I think we all need to do from time to time. It's important to hustle and grind and move quickly towards our goals, but it is, in my eyes, equally as important to rest, to be present and intentional about how we spend our time and energy. And I want to talk about this because I have dedicated the upcoming month of August to doing just that, slowing down. I'm transitioning out of my job, and I might talk about that in a later episode, but I'm intentionally dedicating the month of August to doing some of the things that we'll be talking about today, slowing down, becoming more present, regulating my nervous system again, getting back into my body, experiencing and creating joy, peace, relaxation, all of those things. So the conversation that I want to have today is, the way I conceptualize it, is twofold. I see slowing down to include so many different things, but there's two categories in particular that I want to parse it out into. And the first one is quite literally slowing down. This is taking time off of work, saying no to plans that you don't want to go to, incorporating more physical rest into your life, putting a pause on some things, etc. And the other way that I envision slowing down is reframing the way that we approach the things that we already do. So work, spending time with people, household chores. And so some things that we're going to talk about today include consuming less, becoming more present, becoming more intentional with the things that we do and say and spend time on. Also, somewhat of a disclaimer before we get started. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about today are just flat out unrealistic for some people. Slowing down in this day and age, in this current world, is a privilege. And I want to make sure you folks know that not everything we talk about today will be feasible for you. I want you to take what you can from this episode and leave the rest. Get creative on how to apply it to your life, because slowing down is going to look different for everyone. And with that being said, some of the conversations will be around less work, more play, saying no, things like that. And I am well aware that that is not a possibility for some people and their life circumstances right now. So I acknowledge that, and I'm sensitive to that. And I want to make sure you guys know that this is an inclusive conversation in which you can, like I said, take what works for you and ditch the rest. Okay, let's get into it. I wanted to start with listing some signs that you might experience in your life that tell you that you need to slow down. The first is that things you used to find joy in might feel a little more bland, whether it's hobbies or it's work or it's relationship. Anything that used to spark joy in your life might be feeling a little numb and bland and boring. You might not be getting the same levels of excitement from doing those things. So that's one sign. The second sign is you feeling as if you are surviving a little bit more than actually living. So feeling like you're working until the next thing and the next thing and never really getting any good quality time to just be. Always pushing, always moving forward, almost as if you're on autopilot. And the third sign that I want to talk about is time. Time might start to move really fast for you, and you might start to forget what you did yesterday, or your days blur together. Time might get a little contorted. And I think this is something that is a little over normalized. A lot of people who work really hard, especially in like 9 to 5 jobs, experience this phenomenon of not remembering what they had for dinner last night or what they had for breakfast this morning. And I think a lot of us go back and forth and we kind of joke about that with one another, and it's seen as something that's cute and relatable. But I personally think that this is a sign that you are not getting enough rest, that you're not getting enough quality time to just be yourself, that you're overworked, and that you need to slow down. The next sign I think you should look for is a sign actually in others and the way that they treat you. Your loved ones might tell you that they're worried about you. And I think that's a sign that we often overlook because we know that our loved ones are looking out for our best interests and they want us to be happy and they want us to be calm and peaceful. So they can be protective over us and protective over our joy and our experience on this earth. But if your loved ones are reaching out to you or even just dropping subtle or sly hints that they're worried about you, I think this could also be a sign that you might need to consider slowing down. Another sign to look out for is when chronic stress starts to manifest in the body. If you experience shallow breathing, tight shoulders, for women specifically, tight hips, acne, stomach problems, if you start to kind of manifest some physical illnesses, this can also be an indicator that you might want to take stock of your life and consider slowing down. And I also want to add to the end of this list that every once in a while, everyone should slow down. Even if you're doing great, even if you're on top of the world, you don't have to be at rock bottom or in the pits of despair to reconsider how you're living your life and really try to get in touch with yourself and maybe take a season to slow down. Everyone should be doing this every once in a while. So like I said, I consider this conversation to be twofold, and I wanted to start first with literally slowing down, so incorporating more rest into our lives. And I want to start by highlighting the concept that will drive a large part of this conversation, and that is rest is productive. You do not, quote unquote, deserve rest when you have achieved enough. You need rest to keep going. We operate in a world and a society that tells us that rest and productivity are this dichotomy, that they're mutually exclusive. Either you rest or you're productive. There is no having both. But research has actually found that this is not true at all. In fact, science has shown us that while your brain is in a state of rest, it can do things like consolidate information, make decisions for you, and regenerate energy. I'm an attorney, and I remember when I was studying for the bar exam, my mentor, he was obsessed with learning science, he would tell us that we absolutely needed breaks and that they were crucial. And it's not because he didn't want us to work too hard and he cared about us and didn't want us to get burnt out. Rather, it was because we were consuming and memorizing mass amounts of information in a short period of time that our brains needed the downtime and distraction to be able to categorize that information and store it in certain places in our brain that was easily accessible during exam time. So he taught us that rest is not a reward, but it was actually part of the work. It's part of the strategy. And so our brains are working whether we are conscious of it or not. So allowing the brain to do the background work that it needs is super, super crucial. It's also, I guess, more widely known and accepted that physical rest is good for us too. Physical rest triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. This helps your body heal, repair tissue, regulate hormone levels, and decrease your heart rate and blood pressure. So I encourage you to think about that the next time you might feel guilty for resting, as I know a lot of us do. It's not just self-indulgence with no reward other than feeling better. I mean, it's good that it makes us feel better, but it also has a lot of benefits that directly correlate with how well we do in the other parts of our lives. It makes us better people. It makes us smarter, more kind, and actually more productive come the time that work needs to get done. It's critical to our health. It's not something that we do as a treat at the end of a long day or once we deserve it based on how many things we've accomplished. It needs to be a part of our plan. So what can rest look like in our lives? 1, taking time off of work. And this is obviously if your finances allow for it, but maybe taking a shift off of work soon to do something fun or just relax for the day. Read your favorite book, watch your favorite show, go lay on the beach, etc. Rest can also include saying no to plans. I often experience the conundrum where I get invited to things that I don't want to go to, and I end up going to make other people comfortable rather than doing what feels best for me. And I'm not saying that you need to decline plans all the time, because showing up for other people and being a villager is important. We know that. But part of slowing down could be prioritizing a restful night at home with yourself rather than going out with people that you don't want to be out with. Another way to incorporate rest into our lives is to put a pause on hobbies or habits. And this is specific to your circumstances, but if you have a hobby or a habit that you're trying to do that maybe doesn't bring you much joy and you're only doing it because other people are doing it, or it's costing you way more money than you want, or causing you more stress and anxiety than it is making you happy, maybe consider putting a pause on it. You can always come back to it later if you feel called to do so, but like I said earlier, part of slowing down could mean getting rid of things and practices that drain you. Another way to incorporate rest is the red, blaring, obvious one, and that's prioritizing sleep. And this is the metaphor that I like to use with myself that really helps me get the ball rolling on this is sleep is akin to plugging your phone in to charge at night. You don't want to wake up with your phone only 30% charged. It will die at some point during the day. and it won't be able to take you through the tasks that you need to accomplish, either completely or at the level of quality that you want to accomplish those tasks with. It's the same with your body and mind. You want to prioritize sleep in order to be able to carry yourself through the day with the energy that you need. And the last way that I think about incorporating rest into our lives is consuming less. And this mainly means social media because I know a lot of us love to scroll, but it can also be news, people, energy, etc. Slowing down could mean taking a little hiatus from social media or maybe one social media app, or it could be setting a screen timer on your phone, one that locks you out after a certain period of time. I've also seen a lot of people like to watch videos or scroll while they eat. So either think about stopping that practice entirely or maybe just picking one day out of the week to consume absolutely no media while you eat. Another example could be if you are feeling ramped up and angry and chaotic about the news, maybe consider looking through it less, maybe once a week instead of every day. We are in a deep and intense space of consumerism in the world, and I think it does wonders for our health and well-being when we turn our focus to being and creating and existing rather than consuming and judging and intaking. So other than physically and literally slowing down, like I said in the beginning of the episode, another way that I think about slowing down, and this is particularly important if you are in a place where you can't afford to take things off your plate, is changing the way that we do the things that we already have to do. One way to slow down in this way is to emphasize your presence and your body awareness. This can make life feel slower and less chaotic without necessarily changing anything that you do. A couple easy ways to tap into this. One is laundry, feeling the clothes, feeling the texture, smelling the soap, noticing your feet on the ground, listening to the buttons or whatever other noise you hear. This can also be done at work, setting a timer every hour or so and pausing to take, say, a 60-second break where all you do is breathe. Another way to accomplish this is through a body scan, and you can do this at any point in your day. You just take stock of how your body feels, from your head to your feet or from your feet to your head. Another easy way to increase body awareness and presence is to smile, even when you don't feel like it. Science has shown us that smiling, even when you aren't happy, releases chemicals in us that improve our mood. So maybe a little smile in the morning in the mirror after you brush your teeth, or maybe even a little smile right now. Who knows? Okay, so we talked about presence and body awareness. The next thing that I want to talk about is intentionality. These are small adjustments in your life that you can make to get rid of chaos and that autopilot feeling. When we are just go, go, go without thinking about it, without a strategy or a plan, it can just tire us out. And so intentionality and making a plan for the things that we do actually allows us to slow down and enjoy, as the things and tasks in our life have a place and have a purpose. So say instead of just doing laundry whenever you can and whenever you have the time, schedule an actual day for it, or schedule 2 evenings out of the week for it, so that you know on those evenings or that day that you're doing laundry. And it isn't just in the back of your mind, like background static all the time, nagging to get done. This will reduce, like I said, that feeling of chaos, and it can make your life feel more organized and put together. Another way to exercise intentionality is to sit down with yourself and think about the true priorities in your life. For example, are you focused on saving for a house? If so, align your actions with that season. So prioritize making money and maybe deprioritize things like frivolous spending. Are you focused on getting to know yourself again? Prioritize alone time and solo dates, and maybe deprioritize dating. When we try to fit all of these different things into our life without taking stock of the season that we're in and the desired intention behind our actions, we are more likely to just fill our plate to the brim. Intentionality in our choices and our actions, it creates space in our life and our day to actually rest and slow down. Another way to slow down without just physically removing things from your life is to show up and move with alignment. So doing things that feel good for us and doing things that align with the best version of ourselves. I think it's kind of similar to intentionality, and I believe that intentionality comes from and is a product of alignment. So one way that you can exercise alignment is to ask yourself why. Why am I going out with these people? Why am I doing my chores this way? Why am I spending time on this? And so it doesn't have to change what you do, but it can spark like a subtle change in the way that you energetically show up and meet these things. Like if you know that you are working this hard to, say, provide for your children, maybe you show up differently with more gratitude and more drive. And also, it could very well make you realize that you don't have a why for some of the things that you do, and so that might push you to shift your priorities elsewhere. The big theme in alignment is turning inward, asking yourself what you want, what's a priority for you, what you want your life to look like, and then taking baby steps to get there, pulling back the curtain and zooming out and really being honest about the life that you want to live. This will take away the things that drain you, the things that you have been doing on autopilot that you didn't really know why you were even doing them. Taking out those things and adding things that fill your cup will make your days seem so much more full and peaceful rather than exhausting. So we've talked about literally and physically slowing down, and we've also talked about how to slow down and get really intentional about the things that we already do. So before we wrap up, I want to quickly share some benefits that I have personally experienced from slowing down in my life. One, I have grown to have more patience, and I feel like I'm better to others. I'm a better, more patient person when I'm feeling good. When I'm grounded and peaceful, that's when I do my best, and that's when I'm the best version of myself for me as well as for my loved ones. So I find that when I slow down, I am more understanding and more forgiving. I also feel like I'm more value-centered. When I slow down, I feel like I'm on the right track when it comes to meeting my goals and maybe working towards whatever accomplishment I want next. So I feel very aligned with my trajectory moving forward, and that in itself brings me a lot of peace. Another benefit, and this is a really important one for me, is it improves my physical health, and I feel like it regulates my nervous system. And I have a chronic illness, so whenever I slow down, I really do feel better physically. I also think that I personally have been operating from a place of fight or flight for years now because of some of my life experiences. So getting to slow down gives me these pockets where I feel my nervous system regulating, and I feel chronic stress and all of its manifestations leaving my body. Another benefit is joy. And this one is obvious and quite broad, but my theory is joy is kind of the point of this life of ours, whether it is joy through love and your connections to others, or joy through travel and experiences, etc. Joy is the ultimate goal. And so slowing down really does unlock joy for me. The last benefit that I want to mention is that I get better at slowing down. I develop the skill and hone the skill of slowing down. So the more I practice this in my life, the things that we've talked about today, the more skilled I become at noticing when maybe I'm going full speed, and so I can come back and center myself. I notice the chaos more, and I can correct and adjust more efficiently. There's a ton of benefits that I experience whenever I slow down in my life, but those are just kind of the top noteworthy ones. And like I said, take what you need from this episode, depending on where you're at in your life. But everybody needs at least a little slowing down sometimes. So I encourage you to use some of these strategies that we talked about today in your own life. Okay, that wraps up episode 5. Thank you so much for listening. I am going to say something that I haven't said before, but if you liked it and enjoyed it and know someone in your life that could benefit from some slowing down, please share this episode and share the podcast with a friend. It's terrifying, but do it. Share it. Thank you for listening to Life As Is. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And if you did so, please follow the podcast wherever you're listening. Leave us a rating and review if you feel so called to. If you're listening on Spotify, feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. As always, keep going. I am rooting for you, and I will see you in the next episode.